The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up, take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me tonight on the program. Wowzers. Happy Thursday, everybody. We're getting closer and closer to Memorial Day weekend, 3-day weekend for most of you. Enjoy the weekend. Have fun. Be safe as always. And remember those who gave. Some gave all gave some, right? So Dan Quinn gave a speech today at his alma mater. He was the guest speaker. And I think him and his wife also received an honorary master's degree from Salisbury. Is it Salisbury College? He finished with a profound statement that, you know, a lot of people retweeted, including myself. And a pretty cool moment, I bet, for DQ to be able to go back to his alma mater, speak to the graduating class of 2025, and leave them with a message that they'll probably never forget. I posted a picture. The thumbnail for this picture, for this particular show, was an inspiration from my girl, Condo P. Miss Perry, stand up. You in the building. Thank you for sending this to me, because this is sometimes, in order to truly appreciate what you have, you must, and I don't think this is something I need to reiterate to this fan base in particular, okay? No one suffered like us. I don't need to go down that road again. I don't need to give you that entire spiel again, right? We are well aware of our suffering and our pain that we endured for over 25 years. And so I don't have to tell you that you need to be thankful for where we are. You need to be grateful for, you know, where we're heading and what we have and what Jaden Daniels has brought to this organization and what Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and company have brought to this organization. I don't have to tell you to be grateful, because there's no fan base more deserving of what we've embraced. This, the last 365 calendar, hell, let's go back all the way to January of last year when Adam Peters was hired. So let's say maybe the last 500 days have been amazing to be a Commanders fan. Amazing. The last 500 days have been. And everything's happened so fast and so quickly. You could not have imagined that all of these things would have turned around and happened in our favor so quickly. The only thing, and I literally mean the only thing, that has not transpired in the last 500 days is us winning a Super Bowl. Short of that, we've done everything you could imagine, just about. We've beaten Dallas. We've beaten Philadelphia. We've gone to the playoffs. We've won a playoff game for the first time since 2005. We've won more than 10 games for the first time since 1991. We've gone to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1991. We've won more than one road playoff game for the first time in franchise history. We found a franchise quarterback for the first time probably, and I can't count Kirk Cousins. He didn't sign a second contract here, so you probably got to go all the way back to Joe Theismann. The first time you've had a franchise quarterback here since Joe Theismann. You've got a real general manager for the first time since Charlie Casserly. You've got a real head coach for the first time since probably Mike Shanahan. No disrespect to Jay Gruden and Ron Rivera, but they were in way over their heads here in Washington. We've got real ownership for the first time since 1995, maybe. I think Jack Kent Cook passed away in 96, so I guess I could say 96. I think he passed away in early 96. So, yeah, I'd say that just about everything that could have happened did happen these last 500 days. But in order to truly appreciate how far you've come, you've sometimes got to take a look back. Like every so often, I get people and I get people sending me my very first video that I ever did on YouTube back in 2012. And it is cringeworthy. I hate when people send me that video. It's awful. I'm literally sitting, and I don't know why I thought this was a great idea when I did it, because I didn't know, and I had nobody to show me a roadmap. There was no tutorial like there is now for people that show you the best lighting and all of the best cameras, and that shit didn't exist in 2012. People didn't have those videos, didn't exist back in 2012. So I just got in front of a camera. I closed every door in the house. I turned off every light, and I turned on one little lamp in front of me, and I'm talking with one light shining on me, and it's awful. And it's cringeworthy when I watch that video. But very meager and humble beginnings, right? And in order for me to appreciate how far I've come and appreciate the growth that has taken place and the transformation of the Louie T Network, I gotta acknowledge that video and all of the other videos that look like it, because that's where I begun. That's where this journey started. And it gives me a greater appreciation for where I am now. So when Miss Perry, Miss P, shout out to Condo P, Playoff P, when she sent me that picture the other day, I just laughed and laughed and laughed. And I laughed some more. And I said, oh my God. It was funny because she sent me that picture, and then she was also simultaneously having a conversation with me about some of the stuff that Jeffrey Lurie had said at the owners' meetings in terms of the tush push and him advocating for it. And I had totally disregarded that, and I was just solely focused on this picture. And she was having a whole conversation about the Jeffrey Lurie stuff, and I was still laughing at that. And she wasn't talking about that anymore. She had moved on, and she was talking about this Jeffrey Lurie stuff. And I still was stuck on this photo, like, oh my God, what a bunch of scrubs, right? This is a picture full of scrubs, right? We had a squad full of scrubs back in 2021. Unbelievable. And to think we used to get hyped up off of this shit, right? I mean, look at this, right? Look at this. Look at this. Look at Samis Reyes. I hyped him up so badly. I hyped up Samis Reyes thinking that this guy had a chance to be one of these college basketball turned NFL stud tight ends. And I remember Chris Cooley on the Kevin Sheehan show coming on, and Kevin Sheehan was pretty adamant too. He said, I went back and watched some of this guy playing basketball, and his movement skills don't translate to that of an Antonio Gates or a Tony Gonzalez. He's not fluid like those guys were. He's not going to be what you guys want him to be as a tight end. You know, I'm not telling you that he won't, succeed in the NFL. He's just not going to be what you hope he's going to be. And they were right. They were absolutely spot on. He didn't have the athleticism. He wasn't fluid. And he had so much to learn, right? He didn't know the game. This was his first time playing, and it was just too much for him, right? It was too much for him. He's retired. He's since retired, right? I think he retired 2 years ago, officially. Not like he was going to be on an NFL roster helping someone play anyway, but he officially retired. I think he's modeling now, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, we were hyping up. I know I was front and center of the Samis Reyes fan club. There's Benjamin St. Juice back in those days when we were hyping up Juice as I was never a Benjamin St. Juice fan. You guys know that. But once you're here, I'm going to ride and I'm going to try to hype you up, and I'm going to hope that I'm wrong if I'm not a fan of yours, cuz I didn't like Benjamin St. Juice coming out of Minnesota. I told you, guys that don't have ball production in college scared the living daylight. He didn't have a single interception in college. That is hard. And this was a 3-year starter with Benjamin St. Juice. It's not like he started for 1 year. Hell, Trey Amos started practically 1 year in college, and he had 3 or 4 interceptions this past year at Ole Miss. If you are a cornerback with any kind of merit, if your name carries any type of weight, you're going to be able to get your hands on the football at least once. He couldn't even do that once in college. So I was always skeptical of him. We're going to go, because I know a lot of y'all don't know. I saw Loser in the comment section knew most of y'all wouldn't have been able to get all 12 of these guys' names. Like, it's tough. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's tough because there were 3 guys that I looked at and I had to actually think for like 20 seconds. The first 9 dudes, I rattled them off instantly, right? As soon as she sent me the picture. 3 of these dudes, I had to think for a second. Wait a minute, who the hell is that? And it took me about 20 seconds, roughly. It didn't take me very long, but nonetheless, Jamin Davis, we all know, he pulled the wool over the last group's eyes in his pro day. Military kid. Ron was fascinated with military kids. And Jamin Davis, I wasn't a big fan of his either. I told you guys when he was drafted, I said this guy wasn't even a starter his final year in college. If not for his roommate having a stroke, Jamin Davis doesn't even see the field really his final year at Kentucky. It happened to just be that, unforeseen set of circumstances and an unfortunate occurrence opened the door for Jamin Davis to get on the field. He took advantage of it and ended up, getting starter reps, and he took advantage of it. I'm not mad at it, but he had no business being a first-round pick. None whatsoever. Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane, right? John Bates, our guy, John damn Bates. One of the 2 guys that are still left from this infamous 20. This is the equivalent of the Giants boat picture from like 2016. This is the equivalent of that for us, except this doesn't carry as much weight as that picture did, right? But John damn Bates in the back there, cheesing, and he's one of the few guys, as I mentioned, one of the couple of players from this photograph that are still here and still highly productive and was actually worth the draft pick that was spent on him. A fan favorite, Jarrett Patterson, right? Wow. That was a guy that a lot of people swore up and down that this guy was going to be the next best thing at the running back position. They did a whole story on him, how big of a Washington fan his family was, or are, I should say. His mom had a whole entire basement dedicated to the Redskins / football team. At that time, it was the football team / now Commanders. And how she was like, look, he going to have to earn it. You know, they ain't gonna give him anything. We rooting for him. Yeah, did a whole special on his family, and it was a shame. I think he played high school football with Chase Young. We went through that whole spiel when people were trying to, excuse me, when people were trying to hype this dude up and act as if he was the next coming of Darren Sproles or something. And so a lot of Jarrett Patterson stands out there for sure. One of the dudes I had to think about all the way in the back next to John Bates, Shaka Tony. Hey, old Shaka Tony, the bet master, right? Who got suspended for betting on football while he was at the team facility and later released by the team. Shaka Tony, guy that we tried to get excited about as a situational pass rusher, never ever developed here, never ever became what we wanted him to be, what we needed him to be. I don't even think he ended up being a quality special teams player. So that never worked out. Undersized guy that people wanted to put at linebacker. Remember the Shaka Tony conversation? They should put him at linebacker. He's so athletic. Like, other coaches haven't tried to put Shaka Tony elsewhere. He was never made to be a linebacker. He was never going to be a successful pass rusher in this league. And that was, it was a 7th round pick. Nobody was tripping, right? All the way in the front, our guy Defoe. We'll always have 2021 with Defoe, or 2022, excuse me. We'll always have 2022 with Defoe. He came out in that first week and set the tone for what would be a career year for him. And who knows, he might go to Buffalo this year and kill it, because he's talented. But 2022, that Jacksonville game, week 1, he was everywhere. He was ubiquitous. Pass breakup in the end zone to derail a touchdown catch, a hit on Travis Etienne that forced a fumble that knocked the ball back 8-9 yards, and then the field goal kicker then promptly missed a 37-yard field goal chip shot because of that fumble that went back 8-9 yards, and then had the game-clinching interception. He was everywhere. And that season, he was everywhere. I think he ended up leading the team that year in interceptions with 3. Had the interception against the Eagles in that crazy Monday night game that we ended up beating them in. He had the interception versus the Texans. He had himself a whale of a season. And we just thought that was the beginning of another one of these late round safeties. We already had Cam Curl at the time as a 7th rounder from 2020, making something of themselves and turning into a gem and a steal in the draft. Were we wrong? Boy, were we ever. After that 2022 season, injuries really robbed him of his 2023 season. He was really never the same. New group comes in 2024, and they promptly put him on the bench. He dealt with injuries in camp, and that allowed Percy Butler to get in front of him on the depth chart, and he would never really regain any traction. And that was all she wrote for Defoe. But again, of all the dudes in this picture who aren't here, him and probably the next guy we're going to talk about are the only 2 that actually did anything here and can actually play and are still in the league and have a chance to be here for a while. I don't think Jamin Davis is going to survive in this league much longer, and neither is Benjamin St. Juste unless things change drastically for those 2. Dyami Brown. Oh, Dyami. Dyami Brown started to come on last year, and it's unfortunate that it took him. I really truly believe if this group were with Dyami from the jump, he would have been worth the 3rd round pick we spent on him. I really truly believe that. If he would have been in Cliff Kingsbury's system as a rookie, and they would have been able to take advantage of his ability to catch the ball in space and make something happen, and then also utilize his ability to get vertical, I think we would have seen Dyami Brown blossom a lot sooner, and maybe he'd still be here right now on this roster. But because it took him 4 years to do what he did last season, and again, it's not like he broke out for 627 yards last year. He still had a very meager season last year. But down the stretch, when he finally got the playing time, when the road was paved for him with no Noah Brown, and he was forced to have to step into a starting role, essentially, he took advantage of it. And down the stretch, we don't have the success that we had if there's no Dyami Brown. And I think a lot of us have admitted that. Some of us even wanted him here. I was a proponent of bringing Dyami Brown back, but I also wanted to upgrade the wide receiver position. And if that meant Dyami had to go in order to do that, I was all for that, right? But I was cool if they would have said, you know what, we're running it back with Dyami. We're going to bring in Deebo Samuel, but, you know, we're not going to bring in Michael Gallup instead, or we're not going to bring in, you know, we're not bringing KJ Osborne back. We're going to bring back Dyami instead. I would have been cool with that. I would have been cool with that. We'll see what he does in Jacksonville. I told y'all he was going to get some real money. 1 year, $10 million. I don't think any of you thought he was going to get $10 million. I said, somebody out there is going to pay Dyami now. I thought somebody was going to give him a 2 or 3 year deal. But somebody, you know, the Jaguars said, we want you to prove it. 1 year, $10 million. Prove it. And he's going to get that opportunity, and we'll see if he can do it or not. The other guy that's still here, one Samuel Cosmi. He has a chance to be one of the best offensive linemen we've drafted here since Brandon Sheriff. And he's just got to stay healthy now at this point. And so we're hoping he comes back with a vengeance from this injury and can help solidify and fortify what we think is a vastly improved offensive line that can be one of the best units in football. So Godspeed to Sam Cosmi. Hope to see you soon back on the football field. Oh, Cam Cheeseman, another dude I had to think about when Condo P sent me this picture. Old Cam Cheeseman, or Cameron Cheeseman. You don't get nicknames for the shit he was doing here. Old Ronald traded back up into the 5th round to draft Cameron Cheeseman. Gave away draft capital so he could get his precious long snapper. Only one problem. The man couldn't snap the damn football. How unfortunate of a pick that ended up being. One thing you never want to do as a fan is be having conversations about a damn long snapper. Glad those days are over. A lot of you's favorite player, old Dax Milne, the great white hope as a punt returner. I heard every name in the book from Danny Amendola to Wes Welker to Tim Patrick he was going to be for this team. That was some nasty work right there with Dax Milne. Slow as molasses. I actually did think, it was funny. Miss Perry said, I actually thought he could be the second coming of Adam Humphries. You know, Adam Humphries actually played here. The last team he played in the NFL for was the Washington Commanders. Go figure, right? She thought he could be the next Adam Humphries. He couldn't even do that. He could not even do that. I actually thought he could be a solid receiver. I knew he wasn't going to be a punt returner in this league. But I did think he could be at least a solid wide receiver. That never came to fruition. And I really think that what hurt him the most was the fact that they asked him to be a punt returner. And so many fans soured on him as a player overall because of how bad he stunk as a return man. And they just looked at him as a return man, and they could care less if he could play receiver because he was so bad as a return man that they just wanted him gone. They just wanted him gone. I think they set him up for failure. And then last but not least, he was the guy. This was the guy that I had to think about the longest. I had no idea who he was literally it took me probably about 10 seconds to remember Shaka Toney. It took me about 7 seconds to remember Cam Cheeseman. I took the full 20 seconds on William Bradley King. Like, damn, who the hell is that? And then I was like, oh shit. William Bradley King. He just never really got a shot. But he never got a shot for a reason. He was a basic, college football defensive end that, was undersized, that just never could carve out a niche for himself in the NFL. I don't think he ever made the active roster his entire, duration here. I think he might have ended up with another team on their practice squad. I don't know if he's ever been on someone's active roster and played in an NFL game. Maybe he has. You know what? I think he's done that with the Falcons, actually. I think he might have actually played in an NFL game with the Atlanta Falcons. I could be wrong about that, but I digress. That, my friends, is some nasty work. That, my friends, is some nasty work indeed. But it is a reminder of where we've come from and how far we've traveled as an organization, as a fan base, but more importantly, as a roster. We have vastly improved. We are no longer the team that features players like that, because you can't win consistently in this league having players on your roster like that, right? Hell, we couldn't even get first-round picks right around here. One of those guys that was on that screen that we just had up, or one of those guys that was on the screen just now, was a first-round pick, and he did not pan out here. So, and he was a part of a long list of first-round picks that haven't worked out here. 4 in a row, to be exact. The last 5 first-round picks are no longer here in Washington, going all the way back to 2019, okay, with Montez Sweat. And if not for Daron Payne, and we don't know how much longer he's going to be here, this could be his final year. If not for him, you got to go all the way back to, that's the last guy, because after Jonathan Allen in 17, which he just departed this year, now you're getting back into 2016. You're talking 8-9 years. Now you're in the territory where it's okay for your first-round pick to no longer be on your squad, right? But your 2019, your 2020, your 2021, your 2022, your 2023, and your 2024 first-round picks should all still be on your roster if you did it right. And none of them are here except for 2018, and that's Daron Payne. Montez Sweat, your 2019, one of your 2019 first-round picks, along with Dwayne Haskins, may he rest in peace. Neither one of them are here, obviously. 2020 was Chase Young, gone, right? 2021 was Jamin Davis, as we just saw, gone. 2022 was Jahan Dotson, gone. 2023, Emmanuel Forbes, gone. In 2024, we were blessed to draft Jaden Daniels, and he's going to take us ultimately where we want to go. So you wonder how we were stuck in neutral for so long, why we couldn't get over 7 wins. When you draft as poorly as we had been drafting, where you don't have anything to show for it, no first rounders, I think Cosme might be your only second-round pick, prior to last year. Cosme may be the only second-round pick that's still around. You've whiffed on Fedarian Mathis, who they released last year. Couldn't even trade him. They tried to trade him last offseason, and they had more value in a guy that they picked up as a free agent off of a guy that they pulled off of the Cowboys practice squad in John Ridgeway, there was more value in him around the league than there was in Fedarian Mathis, who was a second-round pick. That's the kind of ineptitude that this organization featured for so long. And it's so good to know that that's over with, which is why when you hear something like, oh, Terry McLaurin may be holding out, I'm not worried because this group gets it. And we don't have to worry about those type of things anymore. They're going to take care of the things that they're supposed to take care of. So we're in good hands, like Allstate, with this organization, with this group. And boy, I'm so glad we've been rescued from the annals of rosters that look like that, with guys that couldn't cut it in this league against SEC players. I bet you if you put together a good, strong, solid group of Georgia Bulldogs from the last 4 years, they probably would have been able to beat our roster in 2021, probably 2022 as well. We were awful in 2023. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to a topic that I really want to discuss tonight. And that is the Commanders getting off to a fast start and the importance of that. So we've looked at the schedule. We've looked at the schedule this year multiple times over, and we're going to look at it many, many more times. And we've talked about the start to the schedule. And, we've been very disrespectful. I know I have been. And I'm not ashamed of it, and I'm not taking any of it back. But the Giants have always played us tough. Always. And before last year, we couldn't beat the Giants, right? We struggled mightily, no matter who was playing quarterback for the Giants. Whether it was Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, it didn't matter. Hell, I think they beat us with Tyrod Taylor one time. Like, it didn't matter who was playing quarterback for them. We couldn't beat the Giants, right? We swept them last year, but those were close games. They're a vastly improved team, are the Giants. They are no pushover by any stretch of the imagination. But we are a better football team than them, and we are at home in week 1, and we should beat them. And I was looking at this post the other day, and I thought it was very interesting. So this post that you see in front of you was put out by Fox on X. And I was actually surprised when I saw our logo up there as one of 6 teams that they deemed needed to start fast in 2025. But when I looked at the games and I looked at our schedule, I said, you know what? They're actually spot on. They are absolutely 1,000% correct. We have to start fast in 2025. This is not optional. If we cannot start fast, we're going to be in for a very long season potentially, because the 6 teams that they put out here that need to start fast are the Giants, the Lions, the Bengals, the Commanders, the Bills, and the Eagles. Now, if you notice, 3 out of the 4 NFC East teams are on this list. And I'm not too concerned with the Giants other than that they play us week 1. And if they're going to get off to a fast start, they have to beat us in week 1. We cannot allow that because we need to get off to a fast start of our own. Now, something that I find very interesting with this particular graphic, and we're going to look at the overall schedule for all the teams in our division, in particular here in a second. But what I find very fascinating with this start for these 6 teams in these first 6 weeks for these 6 teams is that when you look at the Giants, for instance, the reason they need to start fast is because A, you've got a GM and a head coach who are in limbo. And if they get off to a poor start, it could be the beginning of the end for those two before the season really even gets into full swing, right? So they need to get off to a fast start. If you want to turn the tide, you want this team that's relatively young. They've mixed in a bunch of veterans, but it's still a relatively young team. And you want to instill confidence in a young group, you got to win some football games. And you need to win them pretty early, right? So the Giants have a tough schedule. Who are we kidding? At Washington, at Dallas, home for the Chiefs, home for the Chargers, at the Saints, and then I think they are home for the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that Eagles game, I think they're like at San Francisco and then or home for San Francisco and then at the Eagles or something like that. It's brutal. It's the Broncos after the Eagles and then the Eagles again, I believe. But what you'll notice with that Giants schedule is 4 playoff teams from a season ago: Washington, Kansas City, Chargers, and the Eagles, right? 4 out of those 6 opponents were playoff teams from a season ago. That's tough. And we expect Dallas to be much improved. So 5 of those teams look like brutal opponents for the Giants to have to take on early in the season for a team trying to figure it out. For the Lions, best record in the NFC last year. Obviously, they've got a target on their back within their own division and then just in the conference as a whole. New coordinators on both sides of the ball. Everyone's looking to see how they're going to respond with 2 new coordinators. And they come out of the gate just like the Giants. 4 out of 6 teams who made the postseason a year ago. Green Bay, Chicago, 2 divisional games right out of the gate. You want to prove that you're the best team in that division? You got to go win 2 games immediately within the division. Baltimore, playoff team from last year. Cincinnati or Cleveland, Cincinnati, and then Kansas City, right? First 3 games, or Green Bay, playoff team from last year. Baltimore, playoff team from last year. And Kansas City, playoff team from last year. 3 teams from the postseason last year, but 1 team is family business who didn't make it in the Bears. We expect them to be vastly improved. And then Cincinnati obviously is a problem with Joe Burrow and company as long as they're healthy. All right. So that's a tough start. 3 playoff teams from a season ago. Cincinnati's on the list, right? They always start slow. So you get why they're on this list. The reason they missed the postseason last year is because they started the season off 0-3. So, and every year it seems like they start the season off 0-1 or 0-2. They struggle out of the gate. They get an opportunity against Cleveland, week 1. Week 2, Jacksonville, right? 2 non-playoff teams, 2 of the worst teams in football last year, you're starting off your season with. You got to take advantage of that if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. No ifs, ands, or buts. You had the worst team in the league, or one of them, last season on your schedule, week 1, at home, no less, in the New England Patriots, and you wet the bed and lost that football game. You can't do that again. You can't do that again. Minnesota, playoff team from last year. Denver, playoff team from last year. Detroit, playoff team from last year. Green Bay, playoff team from last year. 4 out of the 6 first opponents for Cincinnati, playoff teams from a season ago. Tough sledding, right? Buffalo. Again, I think they have a similar reason why they need to start fast to us. Everybody else needs to start fast because they got a tough schedule and you don't want to fall behind the 8 ball, right? Giants, tough schedule. Lions, tough schedule. Bengals, tough schedule. Eagles, tough schedule. Bills, not so much. Not so much. Ravens, week 1, Sunday Night Football. That's a doozy, right? That's a doozy. Rematch of the divisional round playoff game. But after that, none of their next 5 opponents made the playoffs last year. Jets, we don't know what they're going to be. We expect them to be better new head coach, new quarterback. We'll see if they're better, but that's a divisional game. Dolphins, divisional game, should be tough. But again, not a playoff team from a season ago. Saints stink. Patriots, they're better, much improved, but they're still the Patriots, and they still got a long ways to go. That's 3 division games in your first 6, so you need to start fast, right? But non-playoff team, and a bad one at that, and then the Falcons, right? So of their first 6 games, only 1 team made the playoffs last year. You got to start fast if you're the Buffalo Bills. This is another reason why Washington needs to start fast. Look at Philadelphia's schedule. Look, you won the Super Bowl. This is what you get when you win the Super Bowl. This is what comes with the territory. And they're not running away from this. They're not shying away from the fact that they've got a murderer's row schedule. And the Philadelphia Eagles schedule, pretty much the entire season looks like this. It really doesn't let up. There's one sequence where it's Giants. I think it's a mid team, and then Giants again. So it's a 3-game stretch where they should be able to take advantage of it. Maybe Giants, Raiders, Giants, or something like that. We'll look at it here in a second. But you look at the Eagles' first 6. Dallas, a much improved Cowboys team, healthy with Dak Prescott, George Pickens, et cetera, week 1. Kansas City, team they played in the Super Bowl a season ago, so we know what kind of opponent they are. Rams gave them the best test in the postseason last year in the divisional round, playoff team from last year. Bucks, who have been their kryptonite each of the last, going all the way back to 2021? They haven't been able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Going back to the Brady days. That's a playoff team from last year. Denver Broncos, clearly a playoff team from last year. And then the Giants. So you got 2 NFC East, opponents in your first 6. Obviously, you got to take care of that. But then you got in sandwiched in between those 2 bookend NFC East matchups, 4 playoff teams from a season ago, 3 of which were division winners a season ago. Tough. And then you look at the Commanders' schedule. And you got 2 teams that made the playoffs last year. So right then and there, you're telling yourself, okay, we got to win these games. We got to take care of business. The Giants, again, not going to be some walk in the park. It's family business. You know what it is. They play us tough all the time. But we got to take care of business. Packers on the road on a Thursday night, quick turnaround. That's going to be a fun one. They're very beatable. And I can't tell you the last time we won in Lambeau. I might have been in diapers the last time we won in Lambeau. So they're due for an L from us at Lambeau. Raiders, trying to figure it out. First year with Pete Carroll. They've turned the roster over. It's a different team, but they still need to be taken care of. That's not a playoff team from last year. Falcons, we know they're going to be tough, right? They played us tough last year on Sunday Night Football. Michael Penix Jr. changes the trajectory of that organization, I believe. But that's not a playoff team from last year. Got to take care of business. Chargers, playoff team. That's the second and final playoff team in this stretch of 6 games here to start the season, right? On the road at LA, we're going to try to turn that into a home game. But it doesn't matter. They're going to run the football. Herbert is a problem. They've got weapons. Lat McConkey is a problem. We got to find a way to get it done. And then the Bears, we already know, not a playoff team. We ended their season last year in week 8. However, they're going to be a much improved team, and they're out for revenge. So what I'm telling you is we got to start fast. 4 out of your first 6 opponents, non-playoff teams from a season ago. Teams that had top 10 picks. Giants had a top 10 pick. Raiders had a top 10 pick. Bears had a top 10 pick. Like, you got to take advantage of that. You got to take advantage of those teams. Meanwhile, the Eagles are playing teams that won their division last year. Playoff teams from a season ago. They could very well start the season off 3-3. You get off to a 5-1 start. Look at you, right? That's why you got to get off to a fast start. You got to take advantage. We know the Giants are going through murderer's row. They're going to struggle. They may win a game or two that we don't expect. As long as that shit don't come against us, I don't give a shit what it looks like. They may surprise us and win a game or two we weren't expecting them to do. As long as it ain't against us, I could care less, honestly. But they're not coming out of this stretch at 5-1, 4-2. They damn sure ain't coming out of this thing unscathed at 6-0. Best they can come out of this thing is 3-3. And that's highly unlikely with that schedule. It's more like 2-4, 1-5, or 0-6. So they're dead in the water more likely than not after the first 6 weeks. We'll take a look at Dallas's schedule. But if the Eagles come out of this first 6 weeks, 3-3, remember they started out struggling last year, 2-2, before they went on to win 10 in a row. And we had to snap that win streak ourselves. We had to do it. We couldn't ask nobody else to do it. We had to do it. You want something done right, you got to do it yourself. We had to do it. Somebody got to do it. So we did it. But not before they won and reeled off 10 straight. After starting 2-2, they could easily start this season off 3-3. You get off to a 5-1 start. Now you got a head start trying to dethrone the Eagles from being division champs for consecutive years. And let's take a look at Dallas's schedule now. Let's take a look at the entire division schedule and, talk about getting off to a fast start, right? So same 6 games stretch. Philly on the road, Thursday night, kickoff season. Home for the Giants. At Chicago. Home for Green Bay on a Sunday night. At the Jets. At Carolina. So they could get off to a fast start. Philly is a playoff team from last year. Green Bay is a playoff team from last year. And that's it. 2 out of 4. Or 2 out of 6, excuse me. Just like us. Only 2 of their 6 opponents were playoff teams from a season ago. Doesn't mean that those opponents can't be vastly improved and go out and beat Dallas. Same with us. Like the Raiders can't be vastly improved or the Falcons can't be vastly improved and come out and beat us. But you got to take advantage of that. Dallas is going to take advantage of this schedule. If they're healthy, if Dak's right, this is what they do. They play good regular season football. That's never been an issue for Dallas. So if that offense is vastly improved with George Pickens and that defense is able to rattle the cage of Russell Wilson and Caleb Williams and Justin Fields and Bryce Young, they could easily, come out of this stretch 4-2 with their 2 losses being to the 2 playoff teams from a year ago. They come out of this stretch at 5-1. They could beat Green Bay at home on a Sunday night, be 5-1 and just lose to Philadelphia. Hell, they could beat Philadelphia and be 6-0 after this stretch, for all we know. So it's imperative to get off to a fast start, not just because Philadelphia could struggle out the gates with a tough schedule. And you want to try to get, if you could take a lead on Philadelphia and have them chasing you from behind and keep them at bay the entire season, that's what you want to do. Not really concerned with the Giants. They're going to have to show me because this is tough. First 8 weeks is just brutal. Just brutal. Really, the first one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first 9 games are brutal. To be honest, I mean, hell, we could get all the way to week 12, honestly. But we cut it off at 9 and just say, you're probably dead by the time you get to week 9, more likely than not. If you ain't already dead by week 6. So, not really worried about them. Eagles could get off to a slow start, or they could just show their championship medal and start this season off 5-1, 4-2, 6-0. And you're just trying to keep pace with them. Whatever the case may be, Dallas, again, this is not a tough start to the season for the Cowboys. They could easily get off to a 4-2, 5-1, 6-0 start. We got to keep pace with them as well. So I think it is imperative that we get off to a fast start this season. Absolutely paramount that the Commanders get off to a fast start, because with the Eagles, if you can somehow get off to a fast start. They start slow. Unlike previous seasons where, now I will say, after the first 5 weeks, that at Giants game kicks off a little stretch here at Minnesota, home for the Giants again, and then a bye. They could get hot, heat up, and do what they did last year. All it takes is one game. We saw it last year for them to get hot, turn on it, flip on a switch, and all of a sudden run off 8, 9, 10 in a row. That Giants game could be one where they turn it around. But again, Minnesota ain't no slouch. The Pack, they come off the bye at Green Bay on a Monday night, home for Detroit on a Sunday night. These are not easy games. Against Dallas again, this one on the road. You know, Black Friday against Chicago, then at the Chargers on a Monday night. So it doesn't ease up for them. They're gonna have to earn it, but they're capable. So the key for me is us getting off to a fast start, applying pressure to Philadelphia, applying pressure to Dallas, forcing them to have to try to play catch up, forcing them to have to try to keep pace with us. And if we can do that, we got a doable schedule. We got a doable schedule. Record-wise, right? Just based off of last year's records, which mean absolutely nothing at this point. I'm aware. But based off of last year's record, we actually have the weakest strength of schedule of any team in this division. That includes the Giants. But we all know why their strength of schedule is, you know, one of the highest in football this year. But we have the least strength of schedule. Now, it's still tough. I think ours is like the 8th strongest schedule in the NFL, but everybody else in the division is ahead of us. I think the Cowboys are like 6th. The Eagles are like 4th, and the Giants are like 2nd. Toughest schedules. So we got to take advantage of it. We got to take advantage. So we'll see if this team can take full advantage of, I think, an opportunity that the NFL is putting before them. Right? I really think the NFL is giving them a golden opportunity to get off to a fast start. I clamored. I wanted prime time week 1 right out of the gate. I wanted something big. I wanted Denver. I wanted Atlanta. I didn't want Philadelphia. I wanted to save Philadelphia for later on in the season, because I didn't want banner night, all of that comes with it. I didn't want that, right? Save that for somebody else. I'm glad Dallas is doing that. But, you know, I was ready to go to Kansas City if need be, week 1, Sunday night. And the NFL says, bro, this ain't what you want. You don't want that. You think you want that, but we giving you a golden opportunity to get off to a fast start. Don't ask for some shit that you really don't want nor need, okay? Don't ask to start the season off 0-1. Now, we started 0-1 last year. That didn't stop the movement. We rattled off 4 straight wins after losing in week 1 last year. So even had we started off with a tough road assignment this year, i.e. Kansas City on the road, we could have bounced back just like we did last year. But expectations are different this year, obviously, which is why you can't afford to lose week 1. You can't afford to lose week 1 to the Giants. They're going to come out week 1 because of their ability to play us tough and their success against us in the past. There are a lot of players that are on that roster that remember sweeping us 2 years ago, that remember sweeping us the year before that as well. And so there are players like Kayvon Thibodeau who are like, remember, he said, what rivalry? We don't have no rivalry with Washington. Every time we played them, we beat them. He was real disrespectful. And he had every right to be, because until you beat somebody, there is no such thing as a rivalry if it's not going back and forth. If there's not resistance from the other side, There's no such thing as a rivalry. That's a one-sided beatdown. That's what's taking place. So the Giants are going to come in there confident week 1. We better take care of business. We better take care of business. So let's get to the comment section. Shadow Striker 789. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I got to see DQ do his speech at Salisbury, and it's Salisbury University. Haha. I knew, I can't help but I hear Salisbury and I think of Salisbury Steak, which isn't actually a real steak. For those of you who grew up broke and had to shop at Murray's, good times. I ain't gonna front. There was some great meals had at Murray's. One of my favorite was Salisbury Steak. Moms would put those joints on the stove. The aroma would fill up the damn kitchen. Now that shit smelled great, just like liver, except this actually tastes good. And I wanted seconds of Salisbury Steak. Don't ask me what the shit was made of. What the hell is a Salisbury? I couldn't tell you. I just knew the shit was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. Those Murray chicken patties, oh, the best. Put those between a couple of slices of white bread. What? A little mayo on that? Maybe a little ketchup if you wanted to get a little zesty. You were feeling good about yourself. Murray's used to do it big back in the days. It was pretty cool, though. On a serious note, it was pretty cool to watch him get up there. And I knew he relished that opportunity to go up there and deliver that speech. I wonder if that was the first time he had been back on the campus since he had graduated. And it's probably been forever since he had been there. But that was pretty dope. Pretty dope indeed. I think I called it Salisbury College. So if it's Salisbury U, good for them. Better to be a university than a college, obviously. So, Derek B, thank you for my guy. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 44 months. Ha! My guy, Derek B, writes, told you no more than 5 Ron picks make the 2025 roster. I thought you said 2024 roster. Either way, we're splitting hairs. You were right. I didn't think it would be this bad. I'm serious. When you said that, I was like, I thought you'd be close. I thought it'd be like 7 or 8, maybe 9 of those dudes still left. I did not think the purge. I was shocked when, we knew Jamin Davis. When they tried to make a positional change with Jamin Davis and make him a defensive end, that means the beginning of the end is near, right? The end is near. That's the beginning of the end. So we knew he was close. He was living on the edge. But I did not see them doing away with Fedarian Mathis. I did not see them doing away with Emmanuel Forbes. When you made that statement, they had not yet traded Jahan Dotson. I did not see that coming. I did not see them. I feel like I'm missing one more guy. That might have been it from a draft pick standpoint, because Dottie was a first rounder, Jamin was a first rounder, Forbes was a first rounder, and Fedarian Mathis was a second rounder. And those were all the guys that they did away with that were kind of whoa, eye-opening. Everybody else just, they wrote out their rookie contract. Diami just wasn't re-signed. Defoe just wasn't re-signed. They moved on from Cam Cheeseman. I think the last group might have gotten rid of Cam Cheeseman in season. So that happened a long time ago. Juice contract ran out, if I didn't already say his name. They just let those dudes' contracts just expire. They did not bring back Cam Curl, they let him walk. So at the end of the day, it is, what it is. He told us everything we needed to know about this roster. He told us in his introductory press conference when there was that long pause when he was asked about the state of this roster, and the length in which that pause took place and for how long he was silent was as loud a statement as one could make without saying a single word or making a sound. That silence was deafening. And it literally was foreshadowing. It was a precursor of things to come. And boy, they got busy and got to work reconfiguring and reconstructing this roster. And a lot of that reconstruction had to do with getting rid of a lot of dead weight that was here from the last groups, missteps in the draft and free agency, et cetera, et cetera. So you were right. You were right. The Murray's chicken patties. I see y'all talking about the Murray's chicken nuggets. All of that shit hit different. If you know, you know. Okay. Murray's was the shit. If you didn't have to have a lot of money to go shopping at Murray's. We used to go in Murray's. Murray's was the size of the damn bathroom at Walmart. Okay. That was the size of Murray's. You could take 10 steps from the front door to the back of Murray's, and you could take 20 steps from the sides of Murray's, right? From one side of the store to the other side. Murray's was a hole in the wall. But you would go in that bitch and come out with about 3-4 bags full of stuff, and it was all delicious. Just so you know. Navy Ramjet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes. Pause, Lou, pause. Look, that whole picture was a one gigantic pause, bro. It was. I will not lie. And it was up for a pretty long time. But we had to go through every single one of those guys. 10 of which are Jags, right? 2 of which are still here and are good, massive contributors. What am I saying? Both of those guys play a healthy amount of snaps and are massive contributors, to the success of this team and hopefully moving forward as well. So sorry you had to be exposed to that, but again, it was a necessary evil. Davey Ramjet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, blessings to you and the family, Lou. Likewise. Health will be key. We were mostly healthy last season, and we still lack depth. Better, but still lack. I don't know if I feel like we lack depth necessarily. I think the depth on this roster has been upgraded to the point where I feel pretty confident. Like last year, we had little to no depth, right? We were very fortunate to stay healthy last year because we really couldn't afford injuries. We saw what happened to our offensive line when, we had 1 or 2 guys out. You would have thought that, the whole line was decimated by injuries. And anytime Tyler Biotics wasn't in there, you noticed, right? Very quickly. Andrew Wiley was out of the game. You noticed very quickly. And it's not like Andrew Wiley's a world beater himself, but when Trent Scott had to come into the game, you knew he was in the game. You knew, right? Defensive line, right? We saw what happened. Carl Davis. I know I keep bringing this up and I sound like a damn broken record. Carl Davis played a bunch of meaningful snaps, over 30% of the snaps in the NFC Championship game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I couldn't pick Carl Davis out of a photo lineup. If you gave me one right now, if you gave me an 8-man spread right now of just a guy's headshot. And I didn't know any of the 8 guys. I wouldn't be able to pick Carl Davis out of that lineup. So the fact that this man was playing meaningful snaps in the biggest game that this franchise has had in over 30 years is preposterous. That won't be the case this year. The depth has been, I mean, you saw the secondary. They ran from Emmanuel Forbes. They ran from Benjamin St-Juste, and they ran to Michael Davis. That was the depth. That was the depth. They ran away from Forbes. They ran away from Benjamin St-Juste, and they had to run to Michael Davis. That ain't the case this year, man. Like, I think the depth is. Is this roster done? No, it's not done. Not by a long shot. But I do think health is going to be key too. I do believe that health is important. And we were relatively healthy last year. And I credit this staff. I think, first of all, you got to credit ownership. Josh Harris has spent money to upgrade this staff. Nutrition, the medical staff. He's put together a world-class group that I think has really done a great job of putting these guys in the best positions to maximize their bodies and stay relatively healthy. And if we can do that again, we'll be in pretty good shape. But even if, because injuries are going to occur, it's the NFL. It's unavoidable. Unlike last year where you had no depth, little to no depth on the offensive line, now you got plenty of depth. You know, if the offensive line is completely healthy and guys fit into the slots where we think they're going to ultimately be, you're going to have guys like Nick Allegretti, Andrew Wiley, and Nate Herbig on the bench. Like, you should feel really good about that. We didn't have that last year. Now, I am still concerned about swing tackle. That they got Foster Sorrell. I don't trust him. I would feel a lot more comfortable if Cornelius Lucas were still here. Then I would tell you we might have the best backup group of offensive linemen in the entire league. But swing tackle is still a concern for me. But I figure if anything goes awry, they could insert Allegretti and you could just take Coleman and put him back at tackle if need be, right? So I think that's the thought process that they have. But maybe Foster Sorrell will work out and they won't have to move anybody. They'll just insert him and he'll be the permanent swing tackle, and they'll feel good about him on the left or the right side. I don't feel like he is someone that can be trusted. He'll have to earn my trust. I've talked to Chargers fans. They don't have a lot of nice things to say about Foster Sorrell. So we'll see, right? But the offensive line vastly improved, and the depth is vastly improved. The wide receiver position, I think the depth is much better than it was a year ago. Obviously, the frontline guys are better with Jalen Lane, Deebo Samuel, and Terry McLaurin. And, you know, still having Luke McCaffrey developing, still having Noah Brown back as a second-year guy. And then one of two guys, whether it's, I don't think they're keeping both, KJ Osborne or Michael Gallup. That's a much better group than the one we had last year, right? Running back is deeper than it was last year. We're talking about keeping 4 potentially this year. We'll see if they keep 3 or 4, but you're still going to have Chris Rodriguez Jr. on your practice squad, maybe even Jeremy McNichols on your practice squad if they decide to go with 3 instead of 4. I think that group is deep, and we feel good about them, right? Tight end is the same. It was already a deep group anyway. Defensive line is way deeper than it was at any point last year. Is the talent better? That is debatable. But the depth is clearly better, right? Eddie Goldman is an upgrade over Fedarian Mathis. Johnny Newton going into year 2, big plus. I think Jonathan Allen is probably a better player than Javon Kinlaw, but Kinlaw could come in here and wreck shop and kind of change the way that we view him as a football player and say, hey, you know, the Jonathan Allen we got last year that only played in the first, 6 weeks and then didn't play again until week 17 or 18. and was, not much of a factor when he did come back, we're not going to really miss that guy. And Kinlaw can come in here and make you forget all about Jonathan Allen, right? The defensive end position should be theoretically better, right? You brought back most of the guys from last year, but you added, Jacob Martin, and you added, what's my man's name from the Patriots? Dietrich Wise. So I think that position's better, deeper, obviously. So I just think overall the defensive line is better. Linebacker is better just off the strength of guys being healthy. And then, second year linebackers, McGee and Hampton. And then, adding Kane Medrano, it's a more athletic group. I just think the depth is better. And then corner, don't get me started on corner, right? I think the depth is there. It's basically what I'm saying. So I disagree with that we still lack depth. I think we have depth. And I agree with you. It is better. I don't think we lack it, though. But I agree with you wholeheartedly that we do need to stay healthy. But that's all 32 teams in the NFL. Like, needs to stay healthy in order to have any type of success. You need to stay healthy. So anyway, I digress. Anyway, that was the last super chat. So we will get out of here. I got a series of videos that I'll be probably releasing over the weekend just to keep content flowing on the channel. I'll be out of the office the entire weekend, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be out and about. It's Memorial Day weekend. It should be a nice weekend after a lot of rain this week. If you're on the East Coast, specifically in the DMV, you probably experienced a ton of rain this week. So really the last 2 weeks, it's rained quite a bit. So it'll be nice to see the sun this weekend. Get out, touch some grass, have some fun. Get out there with the fam, with your friends, eat some good food. It's going to be cookouts all over the place. Find you a cookout. We'll get you some food off the grill. I'll be on the grill on Sunday. We're going out Saturday. So we'll be out and about. I imagine you'll be doing the same. Monday's Memorial Day. Celebrate those who are no longer here, right? And again, as I said at the top of the show, some gave all gave some. So we pay our respects to them on this Memorial Day. And so you'll have your 3-day weekend. Enjoy that. And then I'll be putting videos out. My goal, my aim is to have a video out each of those days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then we'll get back to regularly scheduled programming on Tuesday. I should have a podcast tomorrow. I can't promise you that I'll have one tomorrow, but I should have a podcast tomorrow because there are a number of things that we need to clean up from the league meetings. Obviously, the tush push did not get banned. So we talk about all those things. They did pass the onside kick rule. We talked about that being on the table for discussion, and they were going to vote. They did pass that. The Lions took the playoff seating off the table altogether. Guess they didn't have enough traction there for it to even get to a vote. So we'll talk about all of that. There's some other things that I can't think of right now off the top of my dome. I obviously got to talk about that Knicks and Pacers game. That was crazy. So a lot of things to talk about on the podcast. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Jim Irsay passing away is something that I, want to touch on just a little bit there. But we got quite a few topics that we need to discuss on the podcast. So hopefully we'll get to that tomorrow. But I will have videos out over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, hopefully, for you to check out. So hopefully you enjoy your weekend. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow for the podcast. If not, enjoy the weekend. Check out the videos. Like, share, subscribe as always. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. You never know when I'm going to upload. You never know when I'm going to go live. That's a staple of this channel. So always have that notification bell turned on so you don't miss a thing. With that said, I am going to glide to the side, allow you to get back to whatever you were doing before I rudely interrupted. I think we have an competitive basketball game, or do we? No, we do not. So I'm not interrupting anything from a basketball standpoint. So just enjoy the rest of the evening, right? And I'll see you guys the next time we get together. And I know you guys are dying to see this picture again. So many of you are talking about it. You can't wait to see it again. So you know what to do. Post up, take command. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. Until then, enjoy the picture. You guys love it.